impacted your decision, your final disciplinary decision?
Um, the short answer to that question is yes, and ultimately, my decision was to effectuate a termination. Obviously, in these cases, when I arrive at that decision, I always afford an opportunity to resign for the individual that is ongoing these things, and I did that as well. In this case, I said, look, my determination is this matter is sustained, and number one. Number two, my action is a termination. But you have an opportunity before I finalize this thing to resign if you want to. He chose not to. So what I learned in this process, and I began to outline this, is that he attempts to justify his actions. He doesn't deny his actions. Obviously, it's on video. It occurred. He does not account for his insubordinate acts. Insubordinate acts is not complying with policy, not reporting adequately either to Lieutenant Guerra, or not reporting adequately to Captain Freeman when he was asked, and certainly when I ordered him to to provide every relevant detail in this incident. He doesn't do that either. And what he does report is inconsistent with the facts.
What was the last?
What he does report is inconsistent with the facts.
Okay, Chief. Now you mentioned that officers facing this situation are afforded the opportunity to resign. You said that he declined. Was that opportunity afforded to Officer Zuniga?
Yes, sir. It was.
Okay. Is that why he resigned?
Yes, sir. He did.
All right. Well, Chief, let me take you through this charging letter, and I don't want to go line by line, except to the extent that the hearing examiner may want to focus on any particular part of the charging instrument. But you mentioned that civil service law requires you to spell certain things out and notify the officer who is going to be disciplined in a certain way, and so where in this document do you factually lay out what it is what facts you are charging that Officer Bautista committed?
That is what I call the layout of the charge of the incident is on page 1 of the letter.
Okay.
And if you notice about second paragraph, I begin to outline that, and I say that on or about May 13 at about 1 a.m.
Okay.
while on duty.
Yeah. And just in the hearing examiner will be able to take this with him and read
Right.
it. But just in a succinct a form as possible, what are the core facts that you're charging that actually made it into your charging letter that you're charging Officer Bautista with having committed?
That he and another officer have a person in custody, that he's on the ground, face down with handcuffs, and that Officer Bautista kicked this individual without provocation.
Okay. Beyond the kick, are there any other facts that you're alleging against Officer Bautista that constitute real violations?
Sure. His failure to properly report, his failure to follow orders to report, his failure to follow my order, my direct order, in a process of getting to the product of the internal affairs. She's given a written order by me saying this is an order that you are required to fulfill, and you are to relay every relevant fact. He failed in that regard as well. And if you notice also, his duty to participate in the internal affairs investigation in a truthful manner is also a charge. So the incident, the instant incident, which is the assault on the individual on the ground, attempt to leave out information from the department's knowledge in multiple situations thereafter. And when ordered, still failed to do so in that internal affairs investigative process.
Okay, Chief. At what point in the document do you then relate those factual charges to actual rules of the department or of the Civil Service Commission or of state law that govern Officer Bautista's conduct?
At the time that I narrow...
I'm sorry, where in the document?
Okay. In the document, if you notice, once I make my decision, then beginning on page 3, I outline the officer's duties and responsibilities, and there's a listing of those.
Okay.
All the way to page 4, and then beginning on page 9, I begin to list the source of those duties and obligations.
Okay. On page 9 of Exhibit 1A.
Yes, sir.
It looks like the first heading I see is a reference to Chapter 143 of the Texas Local Government Code. What are the charges you're outlining there?
Acts of incompetency, neglect of duty, discourtesy to a fellow employee or a member of the public, conduct prejudicial to good order, violation of department rules. The next body of rules and regs is the civil service body of law as well, and they basically mirror the state statutes. And then beginning in the middle of page 10, I begin to point out the specific sources of the rules that may be in violation in this particular incident. Section 9, the personal conduct. Moving on to page 11, that is Section 11, orders. Not following orders, etc. That is that body of rules. And then on to page 12, Section 13, the conduct on duty. At the bottom of page 12, we have the report writing policy. And then we have Section 49, the arrest and handling of prisoners. And then we go into top of page 14, which is the use of force. And then at the bottom of page 14, his responsibilities in misconduct investigations. That is, those are the general sources of the rules that we've alleged.
Okay. Now, Chief, what was your ultimate decision in this case?
There's no justification for this conduct, and where there is no justification for this conduct, there can't be an employee working for us that's engaged in such conduct. So my decision was termination. I think that is the minimum adequate response from a McAllen Police Department standpoint.
Chief, did at any point during this investigation, either in your initial review of the documentary evidence, the video, any statement you received, or any discussion you had with Officer Bautista, did he offer you anything that might indicate that there was some possibility that he could rehabilitate or mitigate in favor of a lesser disciplinary action?
No, sir. And you know, I think if you look at page 5 of Exhibit 1A in the blue binder, those are the statements he made to me at his what we call the Loudermill hearing, the pre-disciplinary hearing. And if I may, I mean, he repeats some of the things that we know are either coordinated language. He again said to me he believed he lunged at the officer. This is now in a physical presence in our office. So he repeats. He hasn't recognized that we've detected all these things in the process. he attributes kicking Mr. Soto as a reaction. It's clear from the video that he postures himself in a manner to more forcefully deliver that kick. He wants to maximize his kick and injury to that individual on the ground at the time that it happens.
Chief, what about the conduct itself in terms of how significant or how severe an issue this is for the McAllen Police Department?
You know, we're not blind to what occurs in this country. Actually, we have a responsibility to be sensitive to what's happening in this country, especially with policing. Policing has never been, as I say, never is not a good word, but to my knowledge, has in many decades has not been under assail, so to speak, as it is in today's time. And many of the reasons that it is so now is because, in the view of the public that it serves, the departments are not acting responsibly. And we've had in this country shootings. We've had towns and parts of towns burned down. So all of us in this business have a responsibility to understand that, and to understand that what's required of us is responsible accountability to our communities. I recognize that. But that's not the reason why I took this action. This action is wrong, police officer to police officer, period. And it shouldn't happen. But we also, I also recognize that I can address it in any multiple ways. The only reasonable action that we could take, that I think it is, in my view, the right thing to do in a situation, but also holding properly accountable, and not put at risk more officers, not put at risk our city, is to take the right action. That's a minimum that our community, and I think any community anywhere expects. So the first thing I would say is that the right thing to do is termination, because this is just wrong. Period. Just wrong. We're entrusted. We're entrusted with we get in this business, we interview people all the time, and most persons, if not, and he may be one of them that walked in and asked him, why you want to be a police officer? To protect and to serve. This is neither. And it's a completely contrary to the responsibilities that we have, and contrary to the expectations of our community.
Okay, Chief, and what are you asking the hearing examiner to do in this case?
Well, in the realm of the responsibilities we have in this room right now that is to bring an administrative decision to finality. I've done what I think is the right thing to do, and I would ask the arbitrator. I think that you upholding this particular action is the right thing to do. It's the right thing to do first and foremost, just because this is not what police officers should do, and we can't allow this. This is a kick. We can't let this rise to a death at some point. And so I would ask the arbitrator to uphold the action we've taken, and in so doing, affirm the fact that we've taken the responsible action in this particular situation.
Thank you, Chief. I'll pass the witness.
May you take a break just for 1 second?
Absolutely. It's 2:30 now, 22 or 15-2, whatever you wish.
I just needed a few seconds to use the.
Yeah.
Okay, let's take 10.
Sounds good.
Chief, I'm David Willis, and I think you know I represent Ulysses Bautista, right?
Yes, sir, I do.
And Mr. Ozuna was asking you a series of questions about the final due process hearing or the Loudermill hearing that you attended with Luis Zuniga and myself, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And in fact, us three weren't the only ones in that meeting, right?
That's correct, sir.
You actually had Frank Trevino, and you had Joe Hernandez, and maybe someone else, right?
Yes, sir. If you look at page 5 of 1A, the document indicates we had Sergeant Osornio, Detective Hernandez,
Right.
Detective Trevino also in the room.
All right. And those are all members of the Office of Professional Responsibility,
OPR, yes, sir.
OPR. Okay. And I think that you had described that during this meeting, you had made your initial findings that Luis Zuniga had violated policy, but you wanted to give him the opportunity to resign, right?
I did, yes, sir.
All right. And when you were asking him to contemplate that decision, you had shown him some photos of the injured Aaron Soto, right?
No, sir.
All right. You didn't show them.
No,
You didn't
sir.
show him any photos.
No, sir.
All right. When you asked him to contemplate whether or not to resign, you did show him an unsigned, unexecuted notice of indefinite suspension, right?
Yes, sir. Typically, I said typically I would afford someone an opportunity to resign in these circumstances.
Right.
At that point, this letter is drafted.
Right.
And so I said, this is what I would charge
Right.
if I went forward.
Right.
I gave them, and you as well, an
Right.
opportunity to fully review it, and then you can tell me, you know what, no, I don't want to do it, and then I sign it and we go forward.
Okay. So you handed it over to him for his review to see what the facts were and the evidence was and the possible violations.
Yes, sir.
And to allow him time to consider whether or not to resign, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. And then after he decided not to resign is when you signed the document, and this document was then turned into the Civil Service Commission Director.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, the I'm sorry, let me get to this point here. Okay. You had also represented here in testimony to the hearing examiner that during that final Loudermill hearing, Officer Zuniga made certain statements to you that you believed weren't sufficient enough to get you off the decision to suspend him indefinitely, correct?
Officer Zuniga?
I'm sorry, Officer Bautista.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then those statements are found on page 5, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. Now, if he made those statements during that meeting, how is it they are included in this memo here?
If you look at the top of page 5,
Uh-huh.
okay, if you notice, we held our meeting on July 15th,
Yes?
and then we continued it on July 20th.
Yes?
These statements were made on 15th, and then on the 20th, we met when I said I would have a decision as to what action to take. So that's what the 20th meeting is about.
Now, he had a meeting, an interview with the Office of Professional Responsibility with Frank Trevino and Joe Hernandez, correct?
In the investigative process?
Uh-huh.
Yes, sir.
All right. And isn't it true that in that investigative process, he made these very same statements?
I believe so, yes, sir.
Okay. And actually, these very same statements don't contain, obviously, the absolute transcription of what he told you. These are the highlights that you picked out, right?
That's correct, sir.
All right. And there was no recording device in that final Loudermill hearing, correct?
That's correct.
All right. And there was no court reporter in there, correct?
That's correct.
All right. After, well, let me ask you this. In your file, in the OPR file that you reviewed in making your decision to indefinitely suspend Ulysses Bautista, you did have pictures of an injured Aaron Soto, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. And then you had a picture of him, I think, with a scratched up face that had some significant swelling, right?
Yeah, yes, sir.
All right. And you actually had some photos of, I think, him in a hospital bed, maybe about 4 or 5 of them, right?
I believe so, yes, sir.
And then you testified here that part of what you took into consideration was the fact that Aaron Soto was sent to the hospital after his arrest and then eventually sent up to San Antonio for further evaluation, right?
Now, your question was, did I took into account
Yeah,
that he went to the hospital?
Yeah, you take that in consideration.
Him getting injured and ultimately ended up in the hospital is a result of conduct that was improper.
Uh-huh.
That's what I'm just deciding upon here today is the conduct, not the extent of injury.
Okay. So the extent of the injury is immaterial to your decision whether or not to discipline Ulysses Bautista?
The conduct.
Right. And I'm
Yes.
asking you, is the extent of the injury to the victim or the suspect
Yes, sir.
relative to your analysis whether or not to suspend Ulysses Bautista?
Yes, that conduct is the basis for my action, not the extent of injury.
Okay. So if there was no audible sound of pain from Aaron Soto, you still would have come up with the same result?
I mean, there is, if that conduct
Yeah.
occurred with no injury and we had notice of that conduct and evidence of that conduct the way we do today, number one. And number two, the apparent attempt to hide it
Uh-huh.
and not be truthful about it, the result would be the same.
All right. I'm talking about, take just that 2 or 3 second moment in time when Ulysses Bautista strikes Aaron Soto with his foot, okay? If there is absolutely no injury whatsoever, is your decision the same?
And again, I just answered that question. If the conduct occurs and we have notice of that, and we have the same set of facts we have here, and that is the lack of reporting, attempt to hide the reporting, attempt to coordinate reporting, not cooperating with the investigation, insubordination to his superiors. If all those facts were the same,
Mm-hmm.
absent any injury,
Mm-hmm.
I'd still be looking at termination.
All right, so let's unbox that a little bit then. How many reports do you have from Ulysses Bautista?
How many reports?
Yes? How many statements are you saying that Ulysses Bautista withheld information from?
I think we've already pointed out 3 different reports today.
All right, so there's 3, right? This is a
Yes.
finite number of documents,
Well,
correct?
Documents, yes. Statements, he made many statements to our internal affairs officers. He made statements to me
Okay,
as well that were untruthful. So those are 5 different opportunities.
5. All right, so we're going to walk through each one of those
Okay.
5. The first one is the supplement to the arrest report, correct?
No, sir.
All right, what's the first one?
The memo to Lieutenant Guerra is the first one that I'm considering as a document that tries to report this incident and then omits and appears to coordinate his report with another officer.
All right, so you're saying that was created before he drafted his supplement that night?
No, sir. I think they happened the same night.
All right, so
but
which happened first, the supplement or the IDC to Lieutenant Guerra?
I can't tell you whether he sat and wrote the arrest report first or the IDC second.
All right. At least in our conversation, we have 5 possible statements from Ulysses Bautista that you feel were concealing a critical fact, right?
Set of facts, yes, sir.
Set of facts.
Right.
And then the first one you says is the IDC that Ulysses Bautista generated in response to Esmeralda Guerra's request for an IDC, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. And Lieutenant Esmeralda Guerra was there on an overtime DWI detail, correct?
Yes, sir.
And Lieutenant Esmeralda Guerra says in her IDC to you that she was then in the process, I'm sorry, that you testified that that first IDC, the one we're talking about here, which is found on Exhibit 4 of the white binder, was written in response. This was your testimony earlier. Was written in response to Esmeralda Guerra's workman's comp, I guess, reporting requirements. That was you testified earlier, right?
Oh, sir, that is part of Officer Zuniga's reporting
Right.
an injury.
Right. So look, Lieutenant Guerra, Esmeralda Guerra, because there was a possible injury to an officer from being resulted in spitting in the face, has to comply with the workman's comp notice provisions, right? You walk through this whole process with us.
The officer does,
Right.
right. But
And so-
they report those to their supervisor. In this case, that supervisor was Lieutenant Guerra
Right.
that night.
And this document, Exhibit 4, was written in response to her information request to Ulysses Bautista about the spit onto Zuniga, right?
You keep trying to put words in me. I've never said that this was a request from her. This is their reporting to her about an injury or a possible injury to an officer.
Okay.
Which is a standard reporting process. When
Okay.
someone gets injured in the course of their duty,
Yes.
they have to file certain reports, and that's what this is.
So Exhibit 4 is a document intended to memorialize a possible injury to an officer.
Possibly, yes, sir.
Okay. And so are you testifying here then that a document that is created for the purposes of memorializing a possible injury to an officer is inadequate because it doesn't describe some sort of possible use of force violation? Is that your testimony?
I'm sorry, I don't understand your question.
Yes. Is it your testimony that Exhibit 4, which is a document that was created for the purpose of memorializing a possible injury to an employee, is inadequate because it does not contain an allegation by the writer that he may have violated a use of force policy? Is that what you're saying?
It's inadequate because it's not reflective of the set of facts in the situation.
What does Ulysses Bautista's use of force have to do with whether or not Luis Zuniga was injured?
Again, there is no indication in his report that he even was present. He says he did not use the force. There's no reference to use of force or that the individual was harmed in this particular situation. If you look at that, the only entry he makes is that an ambulance was called after the fact. So that's why it's inadequate. It's not a complete report, and it omits the only active role that Officer Bautista played in the situation is completely omitted in his reporting in association with an incident with another officer.
This report was generated for the purposes of describing a possible injury to Luis Zuniga, right?
Yes, sir, and those reports have got to be entirely complete.
So is your position then that well, let me ask you this. In your opinion, when you reviewed the video and before you went into that Loudermill hearing, did you believe that Ulysses Bautista had assaulted Aaron Soto?
Yes, sir.
All right. So is it your statement, is it your opinion here today that Exhibit number 4 is insufficient because Ulysses Bautista did not include some sort of possible admission of criminal conduct? Is that what you're saying?
If you look at my charge, I charge him with not entirely reporting, falsifying reports, or incompletely reporting.
What did you want him to put in the report?
All the relevant information.
What is
about
all the relevant information?
the fact that he used force,
Uh-huh.
and the fact that in the course of so doing, he injured a person.
What is the injury that he did to Aaron Soto?
I don't know if you can hear quite well, but
Yes.
at the time he kicks him, and from that point forward, that person is in chronic pain.
Are you sure he's in chronic pain because of that kick?
Well, why don't we listen to it?
Well, let me ask you this.
And let me demonstrate that for you. Why don't we play it?
You can do that during rehabilitation. I
Okay.
have some very specific questions for you.
All right, yes, sir.
And one, is it your position that Exhibit number 4 is insufficient because Ulysses Bautista did not include some sort of possible admission of criminal conduct?
Yes, sir.
All right. You're saying that he was in violation of policy because Exhibit number 4 didn't make an allegation or include a statement that he may have assaulted Aaron Soto, right?
Let me bring you specifically to the charge.
I can see the charge, and I'll ask you to answer the question.
And I'm going to answer the question by pointing you to the charge.
The question is simple, and the question is straightforward.
Yes, sir. May I answer?
It's not responsive to my question.
May I answer?
No, it's not responsive to my question. My question is very simple. Is Exhibit number 4 inadequate because he did not make an inclusion of any sort of statement of a possible policy violation? I'm sorry, take that back. Is Exhibit number 4 inadequate because he did not make a statement that he perhaps made a criminal assault of Aaron Soto?
And again, I've charged him that in the course of his duty, he submitted an incomplete report or a set of incomplete reports.
Let's talk about this report. How is it incomplete?
And that's what I'm charging, sir, that it's incomplete.
How is it incomplete?
Okay. Report that you are referencing here has no reference at all number one.
To what?
To the assault that he committed on the individual.
You're expecting him to include an allegation that he assaulted somebody?
He has a duty to report use of force.
Doesn't he have a Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination?
I think you know.
Yes, I do know, and I'm asking if you know.
I think you know that in the course of administrative actions, what I ordered him.
Have you ordered him when he did this? You
When
didn't.
when we ordered him to do this.
You didn't do it on this day.
That he is protected.
Is this protected? On May the 13th, 2016, you hadn't even begun your OPR investigation, right?
That's correct, sir.
And when you begin an OPR investigation, that's when you give an administrative warning, and that's when those protections apply, right?
Again, I charged him with not submitting, as I have in the document, a complete official report on the set of facts as we know them now.
I'm asking you specifically. Now, you've come in here with these allegations that, in a general sense, there's some insufficient information. And I'm asking you specifically, out of the 5 statements, the first one we're going to deal with is right here, exhibit number 4.
First of all, don't point at me like this, okay? I mean, and don't try to intimidate me like you're trying to interrogate me. That's not going to work with me.
Well, I think it's going to, because you're going to answer the questions correctly.
If you're going to answer a question, I have a duty to answer questions here, and I'll be glad to do that. And I think I've answered your question about 5 or 6 different times. This is an incomplete report for various reasons. But specifically, if you look at this particular report, there's absolutely no reference, number one. Notwithstanding the fact that of the allegations we've made, that there's an attempt to harmonize reports. That is a collude on reports. But above and beyond that, there is absolutely no reference at all to the incident where use of force occurred. You cannot take an incident, a set of facts, and report only some of those facts for purposes of injury to the officer, only some facts for the arrest report, and only some facts. We don't have that choice. The event is historically recorded, and that is a set of facts that applies across the board.
Objection non-responsive. I'm going to ask you real simply, Chief, what is the statement that you think needs to be included in here for exhibit number 4?
We've said that this report is incomplete. There is no...
Objection non-responsive. What is the statement that you think needs to be in here to make it complete?
There is no reflection on this report. Number one, we think this report is colluded upon.
Objection non-responsive. What is the statement that needs to be included in here?
If counsel wants to object, then the hearing examiner should be given an opportunity to weigh in on that objection if he feels the chief is not responding adequately to your question.
All right.
Before another question comes along.
He's made a statement that apparently you're not satisfied with, but with respect to answering the question, he's made his decision for what he did very clear.
I want to know, and I'm going to ask this one last time, what statement would make this report, exhibit number 4, complete?
A full and complete accounting of all set of facts.
And what is that full and complete accounting of all facts mean? What is that?
At minimum, truthful set of facts. And
what are those facts?
And number 2, at minimum, the causation of injury to that individual on the ground and the reasoning for that, the assault on the individual on the ground and the reasoning for that.
Okay, so you want him to include the fact that he may have assaulted Aaron Soto, right?
That is his duty, yes, sir.
Okay, and this memo was created on May the 13th of 2016, right?
Yes, sir, thereabouts, yes, sir.
And this is before you initiated an internal affairs investigation, correct?
Yes, sir.
And that's before you gave him an administrative warning, correct?
Yes, sir.
And that's before you gave him an Garrity warning, correct?
Yes, sir.
And Garrity protects an officer's statements made during an internal affairs investigation from use in a subsequent criminal trial, correct?
I'm going to object to that, and this can be a point of briefing if we need to. The Garrity doctrine is what it is, and it applies to administrative statements that are made by public employees. There is not, to my knowledge, and we can brief this if necessary, any limitation or trigger that applies because the department uses any particular magic words. It is a right of public employees to be protected from criminal the use of statements they make that are compelled by their duties as public servants from use of those statements in a subsequent criminal proceeding.
That was my question.
But you're implying that it only applies if the department uses certain magic words,
No, it
notifies
didn't.
him that he has guarantee protection. I just want to make that clear. We can brief that if necessary, but I don't want. But
My
the question is,
my question was very simple. Had he given him any sort of warning at all?
again, the necessity of giving a warning before the right applies or before the protection applies is my assertion, is it legally incorrect? We can brief that if the hearing examiner is concerned about when it's triggered. The right against self-incrimination under Miranda applies whether or not the police officers supply a criminal defendant with or a suspect with Miranda warnings. It works the same way in Garrett. Again, that can be a point of briefing.
All right. What other things are missing in this report? Specifically, what factual allegations are missing in exhibit number 4 that make this incomplete?
Still in Exhibit 4?
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Willis, I have said to you, sir, today that this report is incomplete and it does not reflect the entirety of facts, including the use of force by Officer Bautista on the individual whom at that time was under our care and custody.
What is the second statement that you said is incomplete?
The second statement?
Yeah, it's the second statement.
Which one?
Well, I don't know, you said there was 5 statements. And so I'm asking you, in your mind, what is the second set of statements that are incomplete pursuant to your notice of administrative discipline?
I think the first statement that you pointed to was what you in your binder called 4. And then you pointed towards, I think it's called, under tab 9, which is the report to Captain Freeman.
Now, this is the second set?
This is the second one we've discussed today. Yes, sir.
All right, we got 2 out of 5.
So that report too is incomplete.
How?
In the sense that it does not reflect the set of facts as they occurred on.
Specifically, what facts are you saying are not in there?
And again, there's no need for use of force.
Specifically, what facts aren't in there?
The fact that he has omitted and not entirely reflected on
What
this
fact did he
particular.
omit?
Mr. Willis, I'm not going to let you.
Yeah, let's take a minute here. Counsel,
verbally.
just let him finish his answer, that's all. Just, if you
All right.
clip him like that, he cannot finish what he's trying to say. Just give him a chance to fully answer, and then go after him on the
Okay.
next one.
Go ahead, Chief.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. Are we doing something?
Yeah, what is the fact that is omitted in exhibit number 9?
Mr. Willis, this is not a complete reflection of the incident. As you know, the tape clearly does not show this particular individual lunging at anybody. He does not report the fact that the other officer yanks him from the particular car and throws him on the ground. Does not reflect on the use of force and the necessity for use of force. That's just a general overview of what is missing from his reporting throughout these statements.
I'm asking about this particular statement.
And again, that's my answer. I don't care if you don't like it. That's my answer.
I'm asking you particularly, what is it that you're saying is not in this report? And you said a few things. You said that you did not agree with his version of the lunge, right? And you did not agree with his use of force, right?
Mr. Willis, you're not going to get anything more from me, okay? I'm telling you, this is not an accurate reflection of the incident of facts as they occurred. There's evidence, video evidence in this particular case, as you and I know, and you can't get away from that.
Can you not give us an example, specific example of what you think needs to be included in that report?
I'm going to object. The chief has cited 2 specific examples.
Yeah, let's move on. Let's move on.
Now, isn't it true that in exhibit number 9, Luis Zuniga says that he jabbed Aaron Soto with his foot? Ulysses Bautista jabbed Aaron Soto with his foot.
Yes, sir, he does that.
All right. And isn't it true that he also says that he jabbed Aaron Soto with his foot into the exterior oblique area of Aaron Soto?
He says he struck him or jabbed him with his foot. To stop him from being combative. That's what he says.
Yeah, and he also says he did it into the exterior oblique area, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And at that point, then he also says that Mr. Soto complied after that, right?
That's what he writes, yes, sir.
All right. And also in there, isn't it true that he says that prior to his kick, Mr. Soto continued to resist and squirm around while Officer Zuniga attempted to maintain control?
That's what he writes, sir, yes, sir.
And you found that to be problematic because that was also found in Luis Zuniga's report to you. Is that right?
No, sir, I find it problematic because that's not factual.
Well, didn't you say that page 9 of 20 and 16 of 20 were the same, and that was an issue there? It turned out to be...
I pointed out to you, sir, that at the onset of this particular incident, there appears to be collusion at the scene of...
Excuse me, there appears to be?
Collusion.
Collusion.
As to how this is going to go down in terms of reporting.
All right, so is it your testimony here that when Luis Zuniga tells Ulysses Bautista that Aaron Soto was resisting, that was some sort of instruction to collude into what was going to be reported later on?
The reports seem to indicate that they came to agreement in terms of how to report this, and I believe that it starts at that point. Yes, sir.
All right. You don't have any sort of admission that there was a collusive effort, do you?
Admission from?
Yes, from either one of the two?
No, sir.
You do not, right?
No, sir.
And you don't have any sort of other proof other than your own opinion that that statement that was seen in the video is some sort of collusive initiation instruction?
No. And corroborative of that, though, is the reports that were filed.
Okay, so instead of having two reports say the same thing as establishing a fact, you're saying that two reports that say the same thing are a conspiracy. Is that right?
You may say that, yes.
Well, you said it.
No, I've not used the word conspiracy here.
What was the term that you used then? To collude?
Collude means come to agree on how they were going to report this particular incident.
All right. So, again, instead of two reports saying the same fact that establishes a fact, you're saying that two reports that say the same thing demonstrates a decision to collude to a fact.
That's the word I use, yes, sir.
All right. And your only evidence of this allegation of collusion was the fact that those two reports include the same language, right?
The entire set of facts, as we know it right now, includes those reports. I think if you've seen these reports, neither one of them reports the use of force and the necessity for it thereafter. Yes, that is reported, and the absence of reporting that point to that.
Okay. What is the third set of statements that you believe are insufficient?
And I believe that the next statement is going to be the one that he answers to in our what we call our internal affairs investigation. I'm not sure we've pointed that out yet, but it may be here somewhere.
Well, if you can look, he actually submitted an IDC in response to
Yes, sir.
Your request, right?
And wherever that may be in this binder, it
I'll tell you
is.
go to 15.
Okay.
And just for completeness, it's 2H in the city's binder.
And is what we've marked as Exhibit 15 the third set of statements that you say are insufficient or incomplete?
And again, your 15 or our 2H is basically a repeat report of the one we've seen before under, I think it was 5 or number 6, I'm not sure which one.
Objection non-responsive.
Ask him again.
Is Exhibit number 15, the third set of statements from Ulysses Bautista that you claim to be incomplete.
Yes, sir.
All right. And in exhibit number 15, isn't it true that Ulysses Bautista states that he jabbed Aaron Soto with his foot?
Yes, sir. That's the same report that we'd seen earlier under 2 or 9 in your binder.
And isn't it true that in exhibit 15, Ulysses Bautista states that he jabbed Aaron Soto with his foot into the exterior oblique area of Aaron Soto?
Yes, sir.
Isn't it true that in exhibit 15, he describes why it is that he did that?
Yes, sir.
And isn't it true that in exhibit 15, he also says that after applying that force, Aaron Soto complied?
That's what he writes. Yes, sir.
What is the fourth set of statements that you say are incomplete?
I don't know of another statement from him.
Well, you said 5.
No, the arrest reports and all that are other reports.
All right, so where is the fourth one?
The arrest reports, I think you pointed out towards Mr. Willis.
Yes?
I think they're under your...
Tab
your
2?
Tab 2, yes, sir.
All right. And so why... Now let me back this up. What is what I've marked as grievance exhibit 2?
Number 2 are the, in your binder, number 2 are the arrest reports and supplement reports associated with the arrest of the individual.
All right. And so the purpose of this document is to memorialize why somebody was arrested, right?
That is a reporting of an arrest, yes, sir.
All right. And the purpose of this report, at least according to the very top page of this thing, is to describe facts and allegations that support a claim of a violation of Texas Penal Code 4904, Texas Penal Code 22.11, and Texas Penal Code 38.03, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. And so the purposes of these reports is to demonstrate why a person is alleged to have, or prove up why a person is alleged to have violated those points of law.
The purpose of these reports, and for that matter, any report, is to correctly, accurately, truthfully report the entirety of set of facts about which the incident is being reported upon.
Okay. Now, he's charged with DWI in this report, right?
Yes, sir.
And do you remember the elements of a DWI?
Generally.
Yeah, driving
Right.
On a roadway
Sure.
while intoxicated, right?
Generally, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and I'll tell you what, if you want to look at them
No,
more
that's fine.
specifically, I have the statute here,
The code.
and that's in tab 27.
I'm not going to go there with you. I mean, it's more technical than that. It's a public roadway under the influence of certain things and under certain levels and that kind of stuff. That's what I'm trying to tell you is that if you want to say I'm driving under the influence is DWI, and I said to you, generally that's correct. Yes, sir.
All right. And again, DWI has a certain set of elements, right?
Yes, sir.
They're finite. They're not expansive. They're actually a 1 through 4, 1 through 5, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. And the reports that are generated in your department are governed by McAllen policy, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. And they're governed by policy 40, section 40, correct?
Yes, sir. In part. Yes, sir.
And section 40 requires that offense reports establish that they require that they establish any violation of a federal, state, or local law or ordinance that has occurred or is reported in violation of those laws, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And is it your position then that Ulysses Bautista's use of force is relevant to Aaron Soto's DWI charge?
Yes, sir. His use of force
What element
is a part of the set of facts that resulted in not only a DWI charge, but also in harassment and resisting arrest and other allegations thereafter made by these officers.
What element does Ulysses Bautista's use of force go to in a DWI charge?
Mr. Willis, the use of force is detail, not necessarily speaking to elements, but detail that specify and outline the facts that ultimately result in an arrest.
And is it your position then, and again, you've already established that his use of force could have been a criminal assault on Aaron Soto, right?
And again, that's just you asked the question, can it be? My answer to you is yes, it
What's
can
your
be.
opinion?
What you asked, and I said, yeah, that could be, absolutely.
And so, are you saying that the Ulysses Bautista's supplement report to the offense or the arrest report is insufficient because he did not include an allegation that he possibly assaulted Aaron Soto?
You keep putting terms in or trying to put words in my mouth, and again, the charge is incomplete and untruthful or otherwise incomplete reports. And what I'm saying to you, sir, is that this report is not, number one, it's an official department report, and it's incomplete because it does not entirely reflect the circumstances as we know them now by evidence, video evidence, as to what they are.
Is DWI, in this case in particular, involved the use of a breathalyzer, did it not?
Involves?
Yeah, it involved the use of a breathalyzer.
No, sir.
A breathalyzer wasn't used in this case?
No, sir.
You sure?
Yes, sir.
All right. It used at least then a horizontal gaze nystagmus test, did it not?
I think Officer Zuniga reflects that he tested him, what we call a field sobriety test, and arrived at the decision to arrest him.
Okay, so it actually did use some sort of testing, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. And to use a field sobriety test, an officer has to be trained in it, correct?
Yes, sir.
And in a case that a case that is taken to trial or presented to a jury or a judge, the issue of proper application of a test is at issue, right? We have to establish that they're properly trained, correct?
Yes, sir.
So does Luis Zuniga's narrative include an allegation that he's properly trained in the use of a horizontal gaze nystagmus?
He reflects that he has applied that test, yes, sir.
But he doesn't talk about his training.
That's correct, yes, sir.
All right, so that would be an insufficient report to you?
No, sir. It's not a factual piece of information in this incident.
It's not that's not necessary in establishing a DWI charge against Aaron Soto?
No, sir.
No, it's not,
No,
because it
sir.
goes to the defense, right?
No, sir. I mean, it goes to anybody, but it's not a piece of information that is a detailed set of facts or a piece of the facts in this particular incident.
Because they don't go to establishing whether or not someone was driving while intoxicated, right? That's the reason.
No, sir. Well, I mean, I'll let you conclude whatever you wish, but you know, someone's training is on field sobriety is not relevant to reporting the set of facts in this particular incident.
All right, and is your position then that Officer Bautista's use of force is relevant to the charge of DWI?
Mr. Bautista did not report use of force, appears to coordinate his report with the other officer about certain facts that are inconsistent with what the video evidence shows. And those facts in this particular incident are all relevant to the set of facts involved here, including the arrest of the individual.
Objection non-responsive. I'll lodge my objection.
You know, that's his answer. Let's deal with it and move on.
You had an issue with Ulysses Bautista's statement that Aaron Soto lunged. Is that right?
His statement, the reporting, in my view, seems to be coordinated between he and Officer Zuniga. And I'm using that particular word as just one small piece of information that seems to point to that direction, in that they both use basically the same language and the same reporting.
Objection non-responsive.
That's his answer. Let's move on.
Is an issue that you had with Ulysses Bautista's statement, his allegation, that Aaron Soto lunged.
Excuse me, what was the last bit of that? Just the last bit I missed.
Sure. That Aaron Soto lunged.
Mr. Willis, it's not an issue that I have. You keep trying to parcel these things into different words. It's not an issue that I have. What I'm trying to tell you, sir, is that what's reported and what's evident to us in evidence are not the same thing.
And is that point that you're saying that is not, is what you're saying, the item that, I'm going to get specific. Are you saying that Ulysses Bautista lied in his report because he says that Aaron Soto lunged?
Yes, sir.
All right. And that's based in your statement that yes, he lied, is because of what you see on that video, right?
Yes, sir.
And nothing else, just that video.
Yes, sir.
Now, you had other officers review this video, correct?
I had other officers?
Yes, other officers reviewed this video pursuant to your instructions, right?
The only ones that I'm familiar with that reviewed this particular video are internal affairs officers.
Say that again, please.
Internal affairs, or OPR.
And that would be Frank Trevino, right?
Frank Trevino, Joe Hernandez, Sergeant Osornio, maybe Lieutenant Foley. That's our internal affairs
Okay.
structure.
And isn't it true that Lieutenant Foley had at least found that Aaron Soto did move forward prior to spitting on Luis Zuniga?
I don't believe so, no, sir.
All right, I'll refer you to exhibit number 13.
Go ahead.
And I'll look at the second paragraph under the OPR review section.
Mhm.
See if that refreshes your recollection. Go about 3 lines down.
Go ahead.
On the second page of the exhibit number 13.
Yes, sir.
So I ask you again, isn't it true that Lieutenant Foley did find that Aaron Soto moved forward prior to spitting on Luis Zuniga?
I don't make that. I'm sorry, but tell me where you're reading. I'm sorry.
Yeah, the second page of exhibit 13, second paragraph under the section titled OPR review, and the paragraph begins, "It is clear."
Okay. So you're asking me if he wrote that the Mr. Soto moved forward?
I said, isn't it true that Lieutenant Foley found that Aaron Soto moved forward prior to spitting on Luis Zuniga?
Yes, sir. That's what he writes.
All right. So you and Lieutenant Foley disagree on whether or not Aaron Soto moved?
No, sir.
Do you have a different term for moving forward? Let me ask this way. Do you agree that Aaron Soto moved forward prior to spitting on Luis Zuniga?
No, sir.
I'm sorry?
You're asking me if I agree with Lieutenant Foley on this?
Yes.
No, sir.
Okay. So at least there is a difference of opinion between yourself and Lieutenant Foley on that issue, right?
Mr. Willis, the charge that is made here by the officers is that this particular individual lunged at these officers. That is their word.
Mm-hmm.
There is no evidence of these. Lunge suggests an assault. Lunge is a forward aggressive motion against someone. There is absolutely no evidence that occurred in this particular incident. So that's what, when we're going around in circles about whether or not this is complete or lied or made up lies or whatever, it's clear to me that did not occur.
But at least Lieutenant Foley found that Soto did move forward prior to.
Yes, sir. And he doesn't have, I don't know what he's making his, moving around or whatever that is. But an assault on the officers did not occur by Mr. Soto.
Okay. But you will agree that at least one member of your staff did find that Aaron Soto moved forward, correct?
Lieutenant Foley writes that he moved forward.
Yes.
That's what he writes.
Right. He found that, right?
That's what he writes, yes, sir.
So there is a disagreement, correct?
No, sir.
You don't disagree with him?
No, sir. I don't believe so, no. there's a lot of movement in this particular individual. But I think if you're what Mr. Foley is testing is whether or not the individual actually lunged at those officers. He's telling us in this particular statement that did not occur. Now, if you don't want to read it that way, I'm sorry, that's your problem. But that's what he's telling us. He's telling us here, lunging did not occur. He moved forward, but he didn't lunge.
He doesn't specifically say that the allegation of lunging is not true, does he?
Again, I'm interpreting what he wrote,
Yes?
and you interpreted it differently.
No, I'm
But,
asking specifically, is
no.
it found in there? Does he
Okay.
actually say in his memorandum
And again,
that
I'm
the
telling
allegation's untrue?
Again, what he's testing right now is whether or not, remember, the allegation is that this particular individual lunged at the officers. He's saying, by virtue of making this statement, he's saying that did not happen.
What types of force did Ulysses Bautista have available to him on May the 13th of 2016?
What types of force?
Uh-huh. He was issued a sidearm, correct?
Yes, sir, that is correct.
And he was issued a baton? correct?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
He was not issued a taser, correct?
That's correct.
And he was not issued pepper spray, correct?
That's correct.
Not issued what, please?
Pepper spray.
Okay.
And the decision to not equip patrol officers with a taser is your decision, correct?
That's correct.
And the decision to not equip patrol officers with pepper spray is your decision, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. So the only two tools for use of force, and I'm talking about physical tools, are either a handgun or a baton, correct?
No, sir.
What other equipment does an officer have for?
We have non-lethal weaponry in our dispense room that can be checked out by the officers, number one. And number two, the actual force that we use, our physical force of restraining and holding somebody, is also an alternate use of force.
Okay. I'm talking about the physical tools. You're only limited to, right?
No, sir. There is what we call non-lethal weaponry at our dispense room available to our officers to check out as they need them.
All right. When Ulysses Bautista is on a bicycle at approximately 1 in the morning in downtown McAllen, he only had 2 physical items for use of force, correct?
That's correct, sir.
All right. And those are the weapon, the sidearm, or the baton, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. And so these other non-deadly force items that are found in the dispensary are not on his person, correct?
That's correct.
All right. And so then you're saying that he also had another use of force ability, correct? And that would be his hands?
Yeah, our actual just physical force. I mean, that's physical force 1, basically.
All right. And are you familiar with how those officers are trained to use their physical hands, their body?
Our training section does that for us, sir.
Uh-huh.
And they subscribe to what we call the Texas Commission on Law Enforcement Officer Standards for that training.
Uh-huh.
And they perform that training for us.
And one of the techniques that are used are pressure point control tactics, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. And pressure point control tactics are the way that officers manipulate their hands or their knees on a suspect's person to force compliance, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. And you find certain pressure points on a suspect's body, and you either use your hands or your knees, and you hit those pressure points to cause pain, correct?
You can, yes, sir.
All right. And to use a pressure point control tactic, you actually have to come into physical contact with a suspect.
Yes,
correct?
sir. Yes, sir.
And to use a pressure point control tactic, you actually have to get close to a subject to get your hands onto that subject.
Yes, sir.
All right. And at 1 o'clock in the morning, on May the 16th of May the 13th of 2016, Ulysses Bautista also had pressure point control tactics available to him, correct?
Yes, sir.
Is it your position that he should have used his firearm on Aaron Soto?
Mr. Willis, this was not his prisoner. This was Officer Zuniga's prisoner, and Officer Zuniga already had him under control.
Mm-hmm.
This was not his situation to deal with, and would not be here today had he not inserted himself in using force on a person that was on the ground,
Mm-hmm.
handcuffed, and already in the custody of our officers.
All right. You just said that Aaron Soto was not Ulysses Bautista's prisoner, correct?
That's correct.
Yet you still charged him with violating policy 49, which is the arrest and handling of prisoners, correct?
That's correct.
And isn't it true that policy 49, subsection D1, provides that the arresting officer is responsible for the safety of persons he takes into custody?
Yes, sir. If you look, the balance of that policy says any officer that uses force.
Didn't you allege that he's in your report, in your notice of discipline, that he is responsible?
Yes, sir.
All right. But the actual text of it, and this is found on tab 20,
Mm-hmm.
and then there's page numbers at the bottom.
Yes, sir.
Page 275 says that it is the arresting officer who's responsible.
Yes, sir.
And so again, I ask you, is it your opinion that Ulysses Bautista should have used his firearm on Aaron Soto to comply with the use of force policy?
Mr. Bautista should not have used any force of any kind in this
Zero.
situation. That's correct.
All right, so it's your position that Ulysses Bautista shouldn't have used any force whatsoever on Aaron Soto at 1:11 to 1:12 in the morning on May the 13th, 2016?
Yes.
All right. And you base that position on your review of the video, correct?
Yes.
And you base that position on your review of a video that shows Aaron Soto on the ground, handcuffed with his hands behind his back, correct?
And the intentional act by Officer Bautista.
Well, I'm getting back to the other part where you said that he shouldn't have used any force whatsoever.
Yeah, and I'm saying that, and the fact that this is quite obvious, intentional.
I know.
You know, we use force, and the reason that's important, and I know you don't want to hear this, but the reason that's important is because we will use force in the course of us doing our jobs. And when we're doing our jobs, we don't have to plan. We don't have the opportunity to plan a kick. If you look at the video, he clearly postures himself in a way where he's going to deliver that kick with the maximum force that he can apply.
Did he ever lift his kicking foot off the ground?
Again, I'm telling you, if you look at that video, you see him posture himself, and in the manner that he's going to be able to, he swings his foot once before he actually strikes him.
Are you saying he actually lifted his foot off the ground?
Yes, sir.
Get to the video, please. Maximize the strike and go to 1:11:52. Matt, just pause. Are you saying in that video there you saw Ulysses Bautista lift his foot off the ground?
Clearly.
You clearly saw. Play that one more time. And it's your position that he took his left foot off the ground? His
Yes,
kicking
sir.
foot?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You actually saw that on that video?
Yes, sir.
You had testified earlier that you believe that Aaron Soto had continually complained of pain after receiving that strike to the midsection.
Yes, sir.
Now, you were here during the testimony of Captain Freeman, right?
Yes, sir.
And during the testimony of Captain Freeman, we played the entire video, correct?
Yes, sir.
And isn't it true that throughout the entire remainder of that video, Aaron Soto complained of an injury to his face?
After this, yes, sir.
And isn't it true that throughout the remainder of that video, Aaron Soto never complained of any injury to his torso?
That's correct. The only thing he pointed to was the injuries to his face.
And isn't it true that the injury to the face was caused by Luis Zuniga?
No, sir.
Is it your position that Ulysses Bautista caused an injury to Aaron Soto's face?
Yes, sir.
How did Ulysses Bautista cause an injury to Aaron Soto's face?
If you see clearly, when he kicks him, this man's on the ground. He kicks him and does this to him. That's what happens to him. His face is on the ground. Just look at it. Don't take my word for it. Just look at it.
Okay. There is not one single document in your file, in your OPR file, that links Ulysses Bautista to the injury to his face, does it?
Again, the strike to his center portion caused him injury all the way to his face. That is my determination.
Okay, but that's not what your other officers found, isn't that right?
I'm not sure that anybody found any different. No, sir.
But I want to make sure I have this clear. You are attributing the injury to Aaron Soto's face to the strike administered by Ulysses Bautista.
Yes, sir. I'm not limiting his injury to that, but yes, that's the answer.
I'll come back to that. At this point, I want to play an interview of Ulysses Bautista with the Office of Professional Responsibility, and that goes to those allegations that are included in the notice of indefinite suspension that the chief made mention of. And so go ahead and get that teed up. And the whole process is about 30 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, it was part of the investigation. If he wants to ask the chief about it, that's fine. Like the earlier video, it's probably more efficient if we just play it all the way through. If the hearing examiner wants to hear it, I mean, it would help in terms of time if we could focus in on a particular time.
Now you're saying the chief was present at this interview?
He wasn't in there, but his testimony was that those alleged, admissions or statements during the Loudermill hearing were similarly said, and I asked this, were similarly said during his interview by OPR. And then we went through the testimony that those alleged admissions or those elements that he included in the notice of indefinite suspension were not the result of a transcription or a recording device, but rather, his selective remembrance or memorialization of those statements. And so and for purposes of context, because we don't actually have that record, and that those statements were basically the same, I want to play the actual statements of Ulysses Bautista at the time he made those statements to OPR. The whole video, the whole audio takes 30, 40 minutes.
Well, let me ask you a question. Wouldn't this be more appropriate to bring up on your direct case?
I mean, I can. I don't want to.
I mean, if the chief wasn't there,
Well, I'm asking him to compare. So the allegation is that in his notice of indefinite suspension, the allegation was that Ulysses Bautista was not truthful or forthcoming, in part, during the OPR investigation. So I want to ask him that. Say, this what you're saying is untruthful or incomplete, and it forms the basis of your notice of discipline.
do you have any objection to this?
I mean, my only concern is just having the chief sit there for 40 minutes or however long the video is. If we had some kind of time index.
Is that how long it's going to be, 40 minutes?
Yeah, and it goes to the very issues that he's asking about. And it goes to the very issues of what he was saying, what he was admitting to, what he was being, in our position, truthful, and his position, untruthful.
Why don't we hold it until the direct case? It just seems to be, you have this witness on the stand, let's use his time. We've got others lined up. It doesn't, there's no problem with doing what you want to do, but it would seem appropriate to bring in on your direct case.
And I'm fine with it. I just, what I understood is that this was their last witness. So even if they do pass the case over to me, I would just come right back and do this.
Okay, is that true?
This is my last witness. We intend to rest after the chief, right? And so.
So you're going to formally close after the chief gets off the ship?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
Then it's wide open for whatever you want to do.
Okay, go ahead and hit that.
But let's get to that point. Let's close first. Close your case.
I mean, I have, just in terms of my plan for my case in chief is, I may have a few questions on redirect.
Yeah, I was assuming
yeah.
that also. Let's utilize this witness to the full extent that we can, and then just open the door for whatever you want to do on your direct case.
Okay. In your notice of discipline, you made mention that part of the I'm sorry, I was getting to the injury. Isn't it true that Aaron Soto came in and filed a complaint against the officer that had arrested him?
Yes, sir.
And pursuant to policy, that was referred to I guess, a supervisor, and then that allegation was taken up to the, was it Bureau of Uniform Services?
Yes, sir.
And
Can I ask when he filed this complaint, when he came in?
well, I'll get to the exhibit.
All right, okay.
Sure. And so let me refer you then to exhibit number 6.
Your binder?
Yes.
Okay.
The exhibit number again is?
6?
6, okay.
Is what I have designated as exhibit number 6, the complaint that Aaron Soto filed with your department.
Yes, sir.
And this complaint consists of, in essence, one sentence, correct?
Yes, sir. This is the May 16th complaint.
And this is the complaint that is, in essence, the Monday following the weekend, correct?
Yes, sir. After he got out of the hospital, he went to the station and filed this complaint.
And there is no mention in this complaint, which is marked as Exhibit 6, of Ulysses Bautista, correct?
That's correct.
And the officer who took this affidavit was Martin Castañeda, correct?
Yes, sir.
And he was a supervisor, I guess, of Luis Zuniga on the day that the complainant came in.
Yes, sir, I believe that's true.
And so pursuant to your policies, he's the one who's responsible for taking in the complaint, right?
Yes, sir. When someone walks in and says they want to complain against somebody, then obviously determine who that supervisor may be. In this case, they arrived at that basically looking or determining who had arrested him, and they referred him to Sergeant Martin Castañeda,
Okay.
and he took the statement.
And Martin Castañeda asked him a few times if he wanted to expand on the statement in writing, and Aaron Soto declined, correct?
My understanding is he didn't know how he got injured, other than that the result of his arrest, that he felt excessive force was used on him and resulting in his injuries.
All right, let me refer you to Exhibit 7.
Yes, sir.
And I'll ask you again, isn't it true that Sergeant Martin Castañeda asked him several times if he wanted to expand his complaint in writing, and he declined? Take your time to look at it.
Yes, sir.
Excuse me?
Yes, that's the most he could elaborate, yes, sir.
Okay. And so he actually declined, and he just put in there that excessive force, non-provoked, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. And then, after executing that affidavit and asking him if you wanted to, expand on that affidavit statement, Aaron Soto made a few other statements, correct? Verbal.
The only one I'm aware of is that statement and the OPR statement.
Well, I'm talking about, if you look at Exhibit number 7.
Yes.
And Exhibit number 7 is the memorandum of Sergeant Martin Castañeda.
Sure, yes, sir.
Memorializing him taking the affidavit of Aaron Soto, right?
Yes, sir.
And again, first he creates the affidavit, and Martin reviews it and says, do you want to expand on it? He says no, right?
Yes, sir.
And then after he had taken the actual affidavit, Aaron Soto then made a few, I guess, some people say it outbursts, but he made some voluntary statements that were not contained in the...
That's what the sergeant reports, yes, sir.
Do you have any reason to doubt that that was a truthful rendition?
No, sir.
Okay. And so there, Aaron Soto allegedly told Martin Castañeda that the cuffs were too tight, right?
Yes, sir.
Can you repeat the question, counsel?
Sure. Isn't it true that after having had an opportunity to supplement the affidavit and declining, Aaron Soto then volunteered the following statements, that the cuffs were too tight, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. And another thing was Aaron Soto volunteered the fact that he denied everything because he was not drunk, right?
Yes, sir.
And that he also volunteered that he denied spitting on someone. Him.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right. And then at the bottom, he then volunteered the fact that he had suffered a fractured cheek bone and intracranial bleeding, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. Now,
Was that factual?
that was an allegation. Let me ask you this. That was an allegation made by Aaron Soto to Martin Castañeda, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. That's what he told him,
That's what he
right?
told him, yes, sir.
All right.
What about the fact itself? Did he suffer a fractured cheekbone?
Well, you don't have any medical records to demonstrate that, do you?
That's correct, yeah.
And the only thing that you have to prove that is his statement to members of your department, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. And when Aaron Soto tells Martin Castañeda that I didn't spit on him, that's not true, is it?
That's correct.
Okay. And when he says that, when Aaron Soto tells Martin Castañeda that I was not drunk, that wasn't true, was it?
That's correct.
And you watched the video where Aaron Soto was telling Luis Zuniga, don't use your baton on me. Remember that statement? And I can play it again for you.
No, it's fine. I don't discount that. No, I don't remember hearing that, but that's fine.
Okay. Aaron Soto, at the time that I guess the medics came out to the scene. This is approximately, I guess, 1:15, 1:20 in the morning. Was offered medical attention, correct?
Yes, sir.
And when he was offered medical attention, he declined that medical assistance, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And when the medics actually came up to him, and they said, I think it was either Officer Luis Zuniga or the medic, asked him if he had fainted after he hit the ground. Aaron Soto replied that he started to feel concussion-like symptoms, correct?
I don't remember hearing that, no, sir.
Okay. Do you want me to play it for you?
No, it's fine. I don't discount it. That's,
Okay. But then he also said that he was just joking, correct?
I remember him saying he was joking.
Okay. So at least we have one incident of Aaron Soto exaggerating his injuries, right?
I'm not sure it's exaggerating. I don't think he knows what was wrong with him.
Well, let me make sure I can play this for you and see if
I'm not taking issue with that, Mr. Willis. If you want to call it exaggerating, because that's a term that fits you, he's just saying what, this is a 19 or 20-year-old young man that suffered some injury, doesn't know what it is, and that's the way he characterizes it.
Go to the video and go to 1:27:20. Chief, at this point here in the video, at 1:27:26, who do you see on the screen there?
The individual, and I believe that's Officer Zuniga.
Okay, at least the person in the cuffs and the spit mask is Aaron Soto?
Yes, sir.
Counsel, I can't hear you when you turn your face up.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm trying hard to.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
The person in the cuffs and in the spit mask is Aaron Soto,
Yes,
correct?
yes.
That's who I believe it is, yes, sir.
And then we'll play the video, and perhaps, do you believe that at this time the medics have arrived?
I can't tell
Go ahead
from
and
that.
play it.
No, I have one of them sitting out there and they're asking for medical problems. It's medicine. So that's not all
Is that a police officer's uniform?
No, I think that's the medic right there.
Okay, so at least at 1:27:34 of the video, Aaron Soto is being, I guess, interviewed by a medic, correct?
The incident was such that they had to call an ambulance to the location.
Sure.
That's correct.
Okay, so go ahead.
I thought a little concussed after getting the phone. I'm just kidding. Just take this myself.
So there, isn't it true that originally he had said that he had felt a little concussed after he hit the ground? Then he pulled it back and said, "I'm just kidding. Please take the mask off."
I think there's some statement to that effect. I don't make it out, all those words, but I don't disagree with it. I don't have any reason to disagree with that at all.
Okay. Isn't it true that in the first affidavit from Aaron Soto, he never mentions a complaint about a strike to the midsection?
That's correct, sir.
And then on June the 10th, this is found on Exhibit 11, he also files another affidavit, correct?
Yes, sir.
And that second affidavit is given to a sergeant of the Office of Professional Responsibility, right?
Yes, sir.
And in that affidavit, he complains of being pulled out of the vehicle and slammed on the road, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. And nowhere in this affidavit does he complain of being kicked to the torso, right?
Yes, correct, sir.
And nowhere in this affidavit does he complain of Ulysses Bautista, right?
That's correct, sir.
The only person he complains about is with Luis Zuniga, right?
No, sir, he doesn't complain about Officer Zuniga.
Well, let me refer you then to Exhibit 11 and the second paragraph, second line.
Yes, sir.
He actually complains about Ulysses Zuniga, does he
No,
not?
he says that's the officer that pulled him over. He doesn't know what happened to him.
Does it say in here that he doesn't know what happened to him?
No, I'm just trying to explain to you the brevity of his statements because our officers attempted to get more detail from him, and this young man could not tell us any more than what, look, I was arrested, they used force to pull me out of the car, and I was injured, and he doesn't know beyond that. We're here because in the course of investigating that particular claim, we discovered this particular use of force by Officer Bautista.
He, in his affidavit, specifically complains that he was pulled out of the vehicle and slammed on the road.
Yes, sir.
He knows how he got hurt, doesn't he?
Again, he doesn't know who hit him.
Does he mention anybody else besides Officer Zuniga in here?
No, sir.
The only person he mentions is Officer Zuniga, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. And so this idea that he doesn't know who hurt him comes only from you and your speculation, correct?
It's my conclusion, yes, sir.
Okay. Not from the record, not from his statement, correct?
He doesn't know, yes, sir.
All right. And in fact, the same officer who took that statement drafted a memorandum to you, correct? This is Sergeant Jesse
Osornio, yes, sir.
Osornio.
Right.
And isn't it true that Officer Jesse Osornio says that Officer Zuniga grabbed Mr. Soto and threw him face first onto the street?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Is that in exhibit form somewhere?
Hey, would you please go to exhibit number 12, Chief?
Yes, sir.
And that's where it's found there. This is about 6 lines down, right? And that's,
Yes, sir.
And it says there that Officer Zuniga grabbed Mr. Soto and threw him face first onto the street.
Yes, sir.
All right. Officer Osornio didn't allege that Officer Bautista threw Aaron Soto face first in the street, correct?
That's correct, sir.
And Sergeant Osornio didn't allege that Ulysses Bautista's strike to the torso of Aaron Soto caused any injury to his face, does he?
No, sir.
That comes from you, correct?
Um,
And your review of the video, right?
That's correct, yes, sir.
All right. But it's not found in Jesse Osornio's report to you, correct?
That's correct.
All right. And Lieutenant Foley also created an IDC regarding this incident to you, did he not?
Yes, sir.
And that's found on exhibit number 13, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And again, Lieutenant Foley, he found that Aaron Soto's complaint was against Luis Zuniga, correct?
Yes, sir.
And he never found any complaint against Officer Bautista, correct?
Yes, sir. That's correct.
And isn't it also true that Lieutenant Foley is the one who determined that Aaron Soto's injury was the result of Luis Zuniga pulling him out of the car and putting him in face first to the ground?
Yes, sir.
All right. So when you made the allegation that the injury to Aaron Soto's face was the result of the kick, that differs from what Lieutenant Foley found, correct?
Yes, sir.
And again, the reason why you have a different opinion than Lieutenant Foley is because of your review of the video, correct?
That's correct, sir.
In that Loudermill hearing or that due process hearing, you gave Ulysses Bautista time to at least present his side of the case to you, correct?
Yes, sir.
And during that presentation of his side of the case to you, he told you that working downtown was different than working in northern McAllen, correct?
No, sir.
You don't remember him saying that to you?
No, sir.
All right. Is working the downtown district different from patrolling the other parts of this town?
If you're alluding to the downtown district and the bars,
Yes.
yes, we don't have a downtown anywhere else except for downtown.
Okay, but I'm talking about the environment. Is the environment, talking about the number of people, the condition of the people, the attitude of the people, different in the downtown bar district than it is in the other remaining geographical areas of the city?
We have about 6 or so bars downtown, and they're bars, and that's where people go drink. Yes.
All right. And the downtown bar district recently had a shooting down there just the other day, correct?
We had a shooting in one of the bars about a week or so back.
On November the 7th?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And that shooting made the local media, correct?
Sure. Yes, sir.
And the city had responded in hopes of curbing, I guess, some of the issues down there, kind of an electronic ID system. Is that right?
The city is attempting to curb any underage drinking at those bars. So by ordinance, they're trying to require those bars to basically ID persons before they go in the bars.
Okay. And so underage drinking is an issue downtown, correct?
Not necessarily. They're just trying to take these preventive steps.
Okay. But then, isn't it true that, at least in that most recent article, the city is quoted as saying that they hope that that step, those electronic scanners, improve 17th Street's image and deter crime?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And so the 17th Street district, or the area, is the downtown bar district, right?
Yes, sir. It's a street that has been dedicated as an entertainment district kind of place. We used to have as many as maybe 36 different bars down there.
Yeah.
It's not that anymore. We've got about 5 or 6 bars left down there.
Yeah. Initially,
So that's the background on this. Is what I'm trying to say.
And initially, the downtown bar district had, like you said, about 36, and it was populous and
Right.
a number of people in there. But times have changed, and those number of bars have fallen off, correct?
Yes, sir. Now, I think we might have maybe 6 or so. That's maybe in a couple of block areas.
And part of the reason why those bar numbers have decreased was because of the area's reputation for difficult patrons, correct?
I don't know why they've decreased in terms of going out of business kind of stuff.
But you actually have a particular assignment, a tactical assignment, to go and patrol that area, correct?
The downtown area is more than one street. We're actually in the downtown area now.
Sure.
So the downtown group, the downtown bicycle group, is the group that, because this particular, what we call 17th Street, is in the downtown district, that defaults to them to patrol.
Yeah. But you don't, well, let me ask you this. Those officers that are assigned to that tactical division, they actually close off certain roads, correct?
The traffic department does that, yes, sir.
Yeah. And those roads are closed because there's a high volume of pedestrian traffic that go to those bars, correct?
Yeah, we think, and when we had this going back 10, 12, 14 years ago, when we had as many as like 36 bars at one place, the practice became to shut the street for about 2 blocks so that we don't have pedestrian and vehicular conflicts.
Right. And you close a limited area. You say that right now we're in the downtown area, but you're not closing out streets all the way out to here, are you?
That's correct, yes, sir.
So you're closing off a certain sector, just a number of blocks, correct?
Yeah, about 2 blocks, yes.
About 2 blocks, okay. And that 2-block area is assigned to the tactical patrol to be, I guess, patrolled from about 10 to 2, at least according to Captain Freeman. Is that about right?
We try, yes, sir, we try.
And that's Wednesday through Saturday, right?
Just about, yes, sir.
Okay. And Wednesday through Saturday are the nights that I guess you experience a high volume of patrons down there. Is that right?
It's typically Friday and Saturday.
All right. On Friday and Saturday, you can experience several thousand people in that area. Could you not?
I don't know if it's several thousand people, but certainly it could be in the hundreds at some point. You know, that go to those places. Yes.
Okay. Would you agree with at least 500?
I mean, I'm saying it could be several hundred. So it could be depending on what's going on, the time of the year, that kind of stuff.
All right. And the tactical patrol is on paper about 12 officers, correct?
More or less, yes, sir.
Okay. And then what actually is sent out to the downtown district on Wednesday and Thursday is between 6 and 8 officers, correct?
We try to, to have some shifted deviations so that they, like all the other shifts all change around. So we try to give them some sort of, earlier day shifts and evening shifts, and then they go back and forth this way so that they have some change as opposed to no change at all,
Right.
A fixed shift. All our other shifts, they rotate. So we try to practice some degree of rotation there.
Okay. But my question.
So the answer is yes, that's why we do it.
Okay. So it's about 6 to 8 officers assigned to the downtown district, right? At a particular time.
Maybe, yes, sir.
Yeah,
Could,
okay.
at least, yes, sir.
All right. And isn't it true that Ulysses Bautista was assigned to that tactical patrol for 4 years?
I'm pretty sure that's correct, yes, sir.
And he had been on that assignment for 4 years continuously, correct?
I believe so, yes, sir.
All right. And in fact, do you know who Jonathan Rocha is?
Yes, sir.
And he's a member of your department, correct?
Yes, sir.
And he had been on the tactical patrol for at least that same amount of time, correct?
I believe so, yes, sir.
All right. And Elvia Rodriguez, do you know who she is?
Who?
I'm sorry, Elvia Garcia?
Elvia? Yes, sir. She's
All
one
right.
of us.
And she's also been assigned to the tactical patrol, correct?
Yes, sir.
And she also has been on there on that assignment for about the same amount of time, correct?
I'm not sure. She's a newer officer. I'm not sure.
And it wasn't until this incident that a few months later you began to rotate officers out of that tactical patrol, isn't that right?
We haven't rotated anybody. They all are subject to assignment. They're all patrol officers, unless they go to another assignment. I think they go to investigations when they apply for investigation positions, and there may be the assignment change that you're talking about.
Okay. And this tactical assignment, it is an actual assignment that is done at the will of the chief, correct?
It's a patrol officer assignment. It's a patrol shift. It's like the bulk of our officers are on patrol.
Okay. But it's an assignment made by you, in
Yes.
essence?
Well, I can assign them out to investigations or somewhere
Sure.
else, but unless that happens, they're patrol officers.
And just for the purposes of the hearing examiner's understanding, the officers in your department have certain classifications which equal ranks, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then there's positions like canine or evidence tech or, SWAT team, and those are called assignments, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. And those assignments actually entail additional pay sometimes, correct?
There's an assignment pay for some of those positions, like investigators get an additional stipend. Canine, I think, is maybe involved in that group, yes, sir.
And then Captain Freeman, he said that he had an assigned rank, or his captaincy was assigned, correct?
That's an appointment by the chief, yes, sir.
Okay. And so, again, appointments serve at the pleasure of the chief. They can be granted, they can be taken away, right?
The captain's appointment is that type of appointment, yes, sir.
Okay, and the same is true for assignment on the tactical?
Unless they're assigned out, they're on patrol, and then on patrol, we have the regular shifts, and then the fourth shift is what we call tactical patrol.
Okay. But again, the people who constitute that tactical patrol are assigned, maybe not directly by you, but
Right.
through your authority, correct?
They're patrol officers.
Yeah.
Right.
In your notice of discipline, you allege that Officer Ulysses Bautista's disciplinary file demonstrates a pattern of misconduct, and a pattern of misconduct for repeated violations, and a pattern of misconduct that escalates in both frequency and seriousness. Correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. And isn't it true that Ulysses Bautista was, I'm going to use the term disciplined, but disciplined in 4 separate occasions? Is that right?
I think that's correct. I'm
All
not
right.
sure.
And the reason why I hesitate in using the term discipline is because discipline entails a suspension, correct? A reprimand is not a discipline pursuant to civil service rules, right?
Well, in our situation, we have civil service, we have state civil service, we have collective bargaining. And under collective bargaining, we adopt our disciplinary policy. And our disciplinary policy, discipline includes reprimands, counselings, investigations. So it's not true what you suggest here in terms of only under civil service discipline is only this. In our situation, given the combination of collective bargaining contracts, we further define discipline as including counseling, EIRs, which are employee counselings, reprimands.
What was that?
EIRs, which are employee information record. In other words, it's one of the lowest forms of documented action that we take with an employee. Is we bring him in, or a supervisor may bring him in and include a counseling, so to speak, and basically annotate on this date we did this, you did this, and we counseled you. That's an EIR. So my point is that we're not limited to defining discipline only through the civil service statute.
Okay.
Our policy actually includes suspensions and everything under less than suspensions as well.
Okay. And so, would you agree with me that using that broad definition of discipline, Ulysses Bautista has been disciplined 4 times with your department?
Yes, sir.
All right. And I think you said EIRs or some sort of counseling or reprimand. Is that right?
That's included in the list of possible disciplinary actions that we can take.
All right. But an EIR does not include a suspension.
No, an EIR is an action. A suspension is an action. They're 2 different.
Okay. So that's why I want to make sure we have clear that if the discipline imposed is an EIR, it is not a suspension.
An EIR is not a suspension. That's
Okay.
correct.
And so of the 4 disciplinary actions that you imposed on Ulysses Bautista, 3 of them were EIRs, right?
I think 3 of them were less than suspension. Yes, sir. 3 EIRs and one day suspension.
Okay. And the first disciplinary action that you imposed was related to an item that occurred or imposed on August the 1st of 2012, right?
Let me pull it up. Yes, sir.
And that related to Ulysses Bautista's using profane language over the radio, correct?
I believe so. Yes, sir.
All right. And that resulted in an EIR, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And then the second discipline imposed on Ulysses Bautista by you was related to an incident that occurred on or about October the 2nd, 2012, and related to a fleet collision, correct?
Please, Counsel.
Fleet collision? An accident with a squad car?
Yes, sir.
Right.
Yes, sir.
And that discipline entailed a 1-day suspension, right?
Yes, sir.
And then the third discipline imposed was related to conduct on January the 17th of 2013 and related to a verbal dispute that Ulysses Bautista had with a fellow officer, correct?
Yes, sir.
And that discipline resulted in an EIR.
Yes, sir.
And the fourth and last discipline imposed prior to the incident one was a matter that occurred on October the 22nd, 2015, and related to police department issued equipment that was stolen from his personal vehicle, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. And that again also resulted in an EIR.
Yes, sir.
All right. So the largest or heaviest discipline that you had imposed prior to indefinitely suspending Ulysses Bautista was a 1-day suspension, correct?
Yes, sir.
And do those 4 instances of discipline constitute the pattern of conduct which you allege in your notice of discipline?
Yes, and I think if you read the letter, you know, I don't necessarily limit myself to these 4 incidents.
Well, look at page 15.
And let me finish. Okay. So it's a pattern of conduct that I've, and for one thing, all these 4 incidents involve violations of rules, regulations, and policy. There may be different circumstances, but they all involve violations of policy. Number one. So that 4 is included in the assessment. But also included in the assessment is the repeated opportunity that he has been given to truthfully answer, to truthfully provide all the information that is necessary in this incident, to truthfully report on this incident. And I think we've been over this several times, but you've got 3 or 4 different supervisors coming at him and saying, tell us what happened in each and every circumstance in this, you know, that lead to this set of facts that we were acting on today. He committed repeated violations of those.
Okay. And I want to make sure we have this point clear. You said that he responded or replied to supervisors, I guess in an untruthful manner. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And one would be Captain Freeman?
Lieutenant Guerra, Captain Freeman, and then the order I gave him for OPR investigation, at least those 3 circumstances.
Okay.
And then
you?
And then the interview with us.
All right. So we got 4. Originally you said 5, but now we got 4, right?
I think so.
Okay.
But my point is, you asked about escalating and repeated, and that's what I'm trying to tell you is that, you know, losing property is for example, failure of following policy and about how to care policy. So my point is, each one of these events is a failure to comply with departmental rules, regulations, and policies.
But you can't discipline someone without a violation of a policy or civil service rule, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So anytime you discipline somebody, there has to be a violation of either a PD policy or a civil service rule or a violation of law, right?
Yes, sir.
So it's always going to be there, right?
Yes, sir, and that's what we've done.
All right. And we're going to circle back to where we were at the beginning, and this is because it goes off what you just said. Aside from the actual